It's Cageside with John Morgan.
And welcome everybody back to another episode of Cageside with John Morgan. I'm your host, Eric McMahon. Took a little hiatus last week. My dance card was full with the NBA playoffs going around. But now we're back in the swing now that your Memphis Grizzlies have been eliminated from playoff contention. But hey, my summer vacation starts as of now. I'm ready to talk some MMA, so let's bring him in. His name is on the marquee. You can follow him on X, JohnMorgan_MMA. What up, brother?
What's going on, man? Yeah, unfortunately, I want the record to reflect that I was ready to go last week. I was all fired up, but, it was your man, Eric McMahon, that had to take a time off. But it's funny, obviously I want to see the Memphis Grizzlies do good. I mean, obviously it's a great organization. We enjoy being a small part of it. Obviously, you playing a much larger role there. So it was unfortunate to see the way things played out. But selfishly, I know that means my broadcast partner is not going to be pulled away anymore. There is going to be no last-second changes to Cageside with John Morgan.
Let's go. Now, this past weekend, there was this fight with Carlos Prates and Ian Machado Garry at UFC Fight Night. This fight flew so under the radar about how big of a fight this really was. I think 7 versus 11, but these aren't your average number 7th ranked in the division and your number 11th ranked in. These are some of the 2 bigger personalities and 2 of the guys, I think, with the tremendous upside about future title contenders. And is it just me, or did this fall so under the radar?
Yeah, I think it came together on relatively short notice. It was less than a month. I think a little over 3 weeks that they put together. And maybe that had something to do with it. Obviously, knowing that there's a welterweight title fight as well in the very near future, maybe that took away from it as well, especially knowing that we've got kind of Sean Brady that's already, it's like there's contenders already. So I think there was a number of reasons. And look, I'll just be honest with you. I think there's a lot of people that don't like Ian Machado Garry, so maybe that contributed to it as well, and that people aren't necessarily fans of the guy, which I think is an absolute travesty and a mistake. I love the guy, if we're being honest about it, but I do feel in a lot of ways it flew under the radar, and I think maybe it was just a kind of a convergence of a lot of different things together.
I want to go on the record and say how big of a fan of Ian Machado Garry I am. Like, there has been so much negativity out there about the guy, and a lot of times you can say, well, they brought it upon themselves. Like, I don't think he's brought any negative attention upon himself. This is what I look at as the guy. A guy who now we will know will take short notice fights. He's a dog, and he says he wants to. So, boom, let's put it. People should theoretically love guys like that. Number 2, he's all this smack had been talked about him about, his wife's father of his, whatever that situation is, right? But the way I look at things is this is a guy, Ian Machado Garry, and my soft spot, family man.
Yes.
I watched him walk to the cage, stop at his wife and his child, give kisses, alter character, being like, hey, I love that stuff. And then you have a guy who's got major skills, and yeah, he may talk a little crap, and it may be the accent people don't like, or they're worn out on Conor McGregor, or they're worn out on, I think there's a lot of hangover from maybe Conor McGregor in Ireland. I don't know what it is, but I'm a huge fan of the guy. And you know what I do know about the guy? He is a freaking fighter. He is a great fighter. And it's really hard. At this point in his career, it is really hard to poke any holes in his game. I think maybe if you were to poke one minor hole, it's his wrestling. But you know what? His stand-up is so damn good that he doesn't have to be the greatest wrestler because he has phenomenal jiu-jitsu. Who was in his corner this past weekend?
Damian Maia, only one of the greatest of all time. What a great cameo that was.
Right? And so it's like, where are we going to pick holes in this guy's game? And I don't know why the hate is. And let's be honest, Carlos Prates is part of the Fighting Nerds. They have not lost a UFC fight yet. And who gives the Fighting Nerds their first L?
Ian Machado Garry gets it done. I think you touched on a lot there, man. Look, I think that's one of the things that I really don't like about it. So much I think of the dislike for him is based around his family life, which, like, come on, man. Let what does that have anything to do with fighting whatsoever? Like, get rid of and again, it's people making assumptions and making falsehoods that don't actually explain. So I hate that part of it. You did say something that was interesting that I was actually thinking about right before you said, I wonder if some of it just has to do with the Irish accent and people having a little bit of a fallout from Conor McGregor, that because he's not as brash. Now, he's every bit as confident. But that's one of the things I really liked about Ian Machado Garry when he came into the UFC is he's like, look, I believe I can be the best in the world, but I want to go slowly. He's like, give me number 15, then give me number 14, then give me number 30. You know, he's like, I'll go slowly and go all the way up and beat everybody on the roster. It wasn't that like, here's what I deserve, here's what you owe me. It's just like, look, I believe in myself. And so I wonder if maybe that has something, because he's not as much of a trash talker, but the skills are there. Now, listen, if you want to criticize something, like you said, maybe the wrestling's not there, maybe he doesn't have as much finishing power as you'd like, and you want to see more. Those are all fair assessments. But if you just look overall at who he is and the fight IQ that he shows in there as well, man, this guy to me has every bit the champ of future, or the marks of future title challenger, and maybe even future champion as well. He is a phenomenal fighter. And if you dislike the man, you dislike the personality, whatever, that's up to you. I won't, try to change anybody's feelings there. But if you're going to doubt the man's skills as a fighter, then you're doing a disservice to how good he really is. The guy is fantastic. Got tested a little bit late here. And maybe maybe if there's anything, there might be some criticism of the way Carlos Prates fought this fight, that he took just a little too long to get going. But I thought Ian Machado Garry proved himself and fought a brilliant fight.
I don't know how Ian Machado Garry isn't a babyface at this point. I mean, especially stepping up and taking a fight against Shavkat,
yeah,
and then winning late in that fight, because that shows like he has this look, that he doesn't look overly tough. Like, right? You look at Shavkat looks tougher. You look at Prates looks tougher. Ian Machado Garry, clean cut, tall, skinny, right? And he doesn't look tough, but then he goes to war. He goes to war with Shavkat. He's winning late, he has finishing moves late in that fight, right? And you should look at him and say, like, this is a guy I want to roll with, man. Dude, he's gonna fight the best in the world like a dog till the end. And he's still got hate out there.
Even this fight, right? I mean, because you talked about, right? The fighting nerds have all this hype coming in, right, man? They just can't be beat. They're unbelievable. Carlos Prates, dangerous, man. You look at this role he's on. Everybody's, you talk about guys that look tough, guys that look cool, guys that look whatever. I mean, Carlos has that look, and he's further down in the rankings, right? And how many guys have we heard over the years, you try to pair him up with somebody down the rankings, they're like, hey, man, you got to beat so-and-so and so-and-so before you get to me. I'm up here. I've already, what have you done? We've heard that posturing and positioning a lot. Ian Machado Garry says, yeah, that's the dude that everybody says is scary. That's the guy that everybody says is dangerous, is tough, this unbeatable team. Give him to me. I'll take that fight. So you're 100% right. This is exactly what we want out of fighters is guys that say, I want to stay busy and I don't care who the opponent is. Just sign me up. Let's go. He says it. When my phone rings, the answer is going to be yes. You don't even need to know. It doesn't even matter. My answer is going to be yes. So what else do you want out of a fighter?
That's what I'm saying. He should be a babyface at this point. But now let's talk about the fight, because, Carlos Prates, lot of momentum coming in.
Yep.
Not just him, but the team behind him, off the heels of what Mauricio Ruffy just did a few weeks back in these fighting nerds, and the all the headlines about the fighting nerds have yet to lose a fight in the UFC. And how is Ian Machado Garry gonna handle the pressure, the forward pressure of Prates? And you said something earlier that is valid about should he have turned it on earlier in the fight. I think that's a valid point, but I think, and I don't necessarily think you believe what you just said. I think it's more of like a talking point. Ian Machado Garry shut that shit down in the first minute of the first round.
Yeah, unbelievable. The guy's got skills. Yeah, you're 100% right. Don't take that. Like I said, it's a discussion point, but What you have to do is break it down even further. It's not as if Prates just came in there and was like, I'm going to chill for 2 or 3 rounds. Like, I'm going to sit out here on the outside.
Four and a half.
Exactly. No, Garry, look, man, And you touched on maybe the fact, well, first of all, the speed that he has out there, the way he uses his frame, it's pretty, man. I mean, the striking is there, but then the way he mixes in the grappling as well, where it's not like, hey, maybe, I need to go all out on this, but I'm going to give you something to think about. I'm going to freeze you a little bit because I'm going to make your brain think, hold on, is he going with that quick jab? Is he shooting in for the single leg and my hands need to be here? I'm going to give you things to think about that hopefully will disrupt your timing and your rhythm. And I thought, Ian, I thought that's why he was really able to disrupt a lot of what Carlos was doing early on in this fight.
That is 100% correct. And I'm going to go one step further. He threw 20 head kicks in that fight, knowing that all 20 of them were not going to land cleanly.
Right.
He's doing a couple things at once. He's one, making sure if you're blocking with that hand, you're not uncorking it.
Right.
And number two, I'm putting damage on it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he was doing two things at once. And it was every time Ian Machado Garry threw that, it put Prates it stuck him in the mud.
Yep.
And then he'd spin out, pop, 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 hit him with a few jabs, maybe a right, then get off on his. Sometimes he had one jab. Sometimes he had a 5-punch combo behind it. But it's not like he was just throwing it and saying, I hope this lands. He is such a smart fighter that I love watching guys like this. I love watching.
He's a tactician. As you said, that fight IQ is there. He's a tactician. And I love what you said, because I think it's an undervalued point sometimes about the damage of, like, look, that was blocked. Man, in a mixed martial arts contest where there's not shin guards on and you don't have like big gloves, like even when you block, that hurts. I mean, we've seen arms get broken, but even without arms breaking, I mean, it just does damage and it adds up. It causes pain there and it makes it difficult. So you're so right. And again, as you said, if that hand is being forced to block, it's not coming at your face. It's not, throwing that big power shot at you. And so you're so right about it, man. I love the way that Ian does that, man. He sticks to game plans. He's tactical. He understands what he's doing out there. He's really, man, if you just hear him talk about fights and break things down, man, the intelligence just shines through.
Moreover, at the same time, a lot of fighters can be very tactical, but yet boring.
Yes.
Ian Garry is tactical and anything but boring. His output in his fights is through the roof. And this all goes to the point is like, I don't understand why the guy takes shit. I think he is so good. I think he is so fun to watch. And I'm a huge fan of him for a bevy of reasons, all of which I've laid out. And for anybody I would challenge anybody in any comment to come in and say, this is why I dislike the guy.
Yeah, I agree.
Sometimes it's just like, I don't know why I dislike him. I just dislike him. And then there's got to be biases in there. Maybe it's Conor McGregor. Maybe it's something, maybe it's the whole accent. Maybe it's whatever. But I still challenge everybody because with the IQ that he has, with the dog that he has, and with the output he has, like, how are people not bigger fans of this guy?
Well, listen, I mean, like, let's say he had scored 5 takedowns in the opening minute of every single round and held the guy down the whole time. Like, I could see, now, granted, that would be actually very smart and very effective and not a bad game plan. But if you came into me on Monday morning and you're like, man, I didn't like that. It just wasn't entertaining to me. Like, I wanted to see Carlos get a chance to strike a little bit. He did get a chance to strike a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, Ian Garry outpointed him on the feet, essentially. He was able to outstrike the devastating striker. And the last thing you're going to do against Carlos is just sit there and just trade shots in the pocket and see who lands first. Like, that dude's going to win that battle a lot.
Yes.
I'm telling you, this was, as you said, to me, this was a good performance. Again, if your criticism of Ian is like, hey, like, I like Ian, but I just wish he would finish more fights. Like, we all like the big highlights, right? Everybody likes the big knockouts, the big submissions. That's what we love about the sport. We all know how difficult it is to accomplish at the highest level. But if that's your criticism of saying, he's really, really good, but I just wish he had a little bit more finishing in his repertoire, that would make me like, okay, I see that. But hopefully you're not sitting back and saying, that guy sucks, like he's no good. Like, he is a brilliant tactician. He understands it. The fight IQ's on the charts. He executes. He's still getting better, by the way. He's still gaining experience. And now he's the backup for the title fight in 2 weeks. And for him
he's 27 still, too.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you don't even, I mean, I typically think of about like 28 to 32 as kind of that like athletic prime for mixed martial artists, right? Now, granted, we've talked about this before, heavyweight division, maybe it's a little later and that sort of thing, but right in this, welterweight division, which is right in the middle of it, I kind of consider like 28 to 32 normally an athletic prime. You start to get those, man strength in there and you've got the experience of that. It's kind of that nice balance of like your body's filled out and you have enough experience, but your traits haven't started to wither away yet, right? Like when you're 38, 39, now you've got all the experience in the world. You've been in every situation. The game has slowed down for you, but your fast twitch isn't there as much. You can't, direct quite as it. You got these youngsters in here. So he hasn't even really entered his athletic prime yet. And again, he's taken fights. Nobody wanted to fight Shavkat. I'll fight Shavkat. I'm not saying nobody wants to fight Carlos Prates, but nobody up ahead of him in the rankings would, right? Because
raising their hand to fight somebody below them in the record that's knocking people out left and right. And that's never been out of the second round because he only knocks people out.
Nobody asked that. And Ian says, I'll do it. But then also he shows his intelligence. And they didn't talk about this, but Dana kind of alluded to it. And he kind of alluded to it that basically he said, I will take your fight on relatively short notice against this dangerous young man. But guess what? When I win, and I will, you make me the official backup for 2 weeks later against the UFC welterweight title fight. Now, Belal Muhammad, Jack Della Maddalena, professionals, I don't think his services are going to be needed. But just the fact, and he said it ahead of fight week at media day, he's like, just so you know, already got my plane ticket to Montreal booked. Just so you know, it's already booked. And that's that confidence, right? That I like. We want a little bit of trash talk. We want help. I mean, that to me is fun. Like I always say, leave out race, religion, family. I don't need to hear about any of that stuff. But just to be like, hey, ahead of fight week, like, don't get me wrong. I know I got a dangerous opponent, but just know that my flight is already booked to Montreal because I'll be there for that championship matchup. Just know, I like little stuff like that. So this guy is doing everything right to me. And listen, I do believe some of the haters are starting to come around a little bit on him, but I still feel like there's this kind of pocket of people out there that just don't want to like the guy. But I'm telling you what, you better understand that he's going to be around for a while because
that is so funny. True.
What I mean? If you don't like him, be ready to not like the dude for about the next 8 to 10 years. You know what I'm saying?
I put it in this category as like, is he cocky? Yeah, but in a very articulate way.
Yes.
And he's right about what he's talking about, right?
Yes.
And so the same people that are going to say, I don't like him because I just don't like him, he's too cocky, are those same people who are saying, oh, John Jones is ducking Tom Aspinall. Well, Tom Aspinall is talking huge shit, calling him a duck, calling him this. Like, that's called being cocky. And that's what we love in fighters.
100%.
And all the same people who are riding that Tom Aspinall train for being cocky are the same ones that don't like Ian Garry for it.
Well, and then there were all the people that were like, oh, he's just a Conor McGregor knockoff. Like, bro, he grew up in the same town. Like, he has the same accent. He's not faking the same accent.
Right,
That's how he talks. And, oh, by the way, he grew up watching the guy in his hometown. And, I don't want to say idolize, and that might put him on too much of a pedestal, but to be like, look at that. That guy can do it. I can do it too, man. Here's a guy from my town on top of the world. Show me that this is possible. And I want to watch it. And I want to follow that same path. Like, there's going to be some traits that are shared. This guy was in your town doing it. You know what I mean? It's amazing. So listen, hopefully the respect is there because, again, the guy's going to be around for a while. I thought this was a great performance. Listen, did get in some trouble late. There's no question about it. He got in some trouble late, but he talked through that as well. He's like, listen, was hurt, wasn't as badly hurt as maybe people think I was, but I knew I had to survive. I knew I had to keep moving. I knew I had to keep adjusting position. All the things that as a referee, are 100% right. I got to see you keep moving, right? I got to see you going. So I just knew I had to survive and get through there.
I looked at that fifth round, especially that last minute of the fifth round, and I looked at it like he did say he was hurt, which surprised me. But he was like, I was clear. I almost looked like he was a little more winded and gassed at that point. Now, truth be told, his output was crazy through 4 rounds. Okay. But I also looked at it as like his IQ in certain situations in those positions was honestly spectacular. When he went for the takedown, got shooked off, he pulled guard out of it. Right.
Right.
And then Carlos started hit him, I think, with 1 or 2 big punches. And immediately he's like, I'm not going to try and grab and stall this out or whatever. He almost gives his back, but immediately gives his back and moves straight to the cage.
Yep.
Right? To put himself in a position where, one, by giving up his back, he's not going to get choked. And number two, now he's only has to defend shots from one side. I'm watching this the whole time being like, this is like I may get accused of just being riding his jock a little bit too much. But when you look at what he was actually doing in that sequence, he knew exactly what he was doing at every moment.
Right.
And he wasn't surviving. He was tactically running out the clock.
I love the way you outline that, because I think your spot, it's not just turtling up, right? You know what I mean? You're limiting the attack spots, you're limiting the places that you need to defend it, and tactically it was smart. Again, it goes again to his fight IQ of understanding the situation, of understanding the likely scores on the judges' cards and where he stands and what he needs to do to survive. And I felt like a little bit of fatigue had something to do with it as well. But you look at it, man, just to punctuate your talk of his volume. Carlos Prates was 64 of 132 in total strikes. Ian Machado Garry was 141 of 259. He landed more strikes than Carlos even attempted, and he nearly doubled him on the output in terms of how many attempted. And, oh, by the way, add in 4 of 19 on takedown attempts as well. So 19 takedown attempts. We know how much, those can be exhausting, how, whether you get them or not, they take something out of you. Carlos probably deserves some credit for his takedown defense being a little bit more sound than maybe many people probably expected it to be. So I thought there was a little bit of fatigue in there as well. But again, let's remember, granted, the guy trains year round. He stays in shape. He's not a partier. He's not that. But this is an elite level 5-round fight on a little bit more than 3 weeks notice. So to fade a little bit after volume like that early on is not to be unexpected. And again, I thought it was a great performance. He did take a little bit of damage along the way. As he said after his over, he was like, yeah, I kind of look like I've been in a fight right now, haven't I? But, he gets to go spend some time with his beautiful family, and he's heading up to Montreal for that title fight.
One last point on this fight and about Ian Machado Garry that I was very impressed with. And you normally don't see fighters do this. You see the elite of the elite do this, but you don't see most highest level fighters doing this. There was on 2 occasions where he really had Carlos rocked and hurt and wobbled. And he would follow in on concise combos, but he never overextended himself to finish the fight. And I always go back to say, like when I'm teaching jiu-jitsu class, I say, especially when I'm comp prepping people for a competition, I say, listen, if our goal is to win this tournament, then we are going to get to the spots that we want to get to, dictate our game, and we are never going to ever, alternate position for submission. That's essentially what he was doing here. He got to where he wanted to be, he heard him, and he would go in, but he was never going to overcommit himself to be put in position to get countered. Because a lot of times we see that. You get countered when a guy is hurt because now he throws all reckless abandon at you. And he never got to that point where even a counter could even get to him. Just very smart.
He really is. And again, I think it goes to show, again, not just his intelligence, but just his calmness in those moments and just the way he can stay under control in a very chaotic situation. We talk about all the time just how chaotic things are inside that octagon, right? And to me, it just looks like things kind of unfold in slow motion for him, and that his training, everything that he's done has him ready mentally and physically for these moments. So big win for him, man. And again, you touch it with the Shavkat performance as well. Obviously a loss, but we talk about taking a fight that nobody really wanted to take and making it incredibly competitive. You take a look against MVP, against Jeff Neal, the guy. I mean, he's facing dangerous guys. And again, at his young age, man, he's going to be around for a while. So I'm like you. Get used to it. I'm with you, man. I'm a fan. I have been a fan from the beginning. I never understood the hate. Again, I love the interviews that I've had. We've had one here on Grind City Media, but I've spoken to him for years, and has come up during the UFC ranks. I've always loved just the thoughtfulness that he puts into everything. And I think he's a good dude, man. I always like to see good people.
Make your request, because I want to see one for Grind City Media.
All right, we'll get another one for him for sure, man. No doubt about it. We'll touch base with him. Maybe we'll try to lock him in ahead of that title fight, and see, get his breakdown on the title fight if he's not too terribly busy cutting weight again and getting ready as a backup.
No, I love that. I want to move to the co-main event. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce Anthony Lionheart Smith's opponent, but this conversation isn't about his opponent. It's going to be about Anthony Smith. And, he goes out in somewhat devastating fashion, as I forgot, I was reading on somebody on Twitter, it may have been Bronstetter, said, this is, again, there's no happy ending to a retirement fight. And Anthony Smith got brutalized. But what a career. I mean, the guy, he to take a fight. Do you think he was in the position, says, like, man, I don't want to fight this. I ain't going to fight this guy who, is like the stud heavyweight of China coming out, who they're saying now China can actually have a guy who can compete at the highest level in this division. Do you think he had the opportunity to say, nah, take somebody a little bit less, or is Anthony Smith in a position and he just had to take the fight he was offered?
No, I think he could have said something. And Zhang Mingyang is the guy they're talking about, and he's dangerous, man. This dude, and when the fight was announced, I think a lot of us went like, "Oh God, like that."
I mean, he's like a plus 400 favorite, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. I mean, it was big, and so yeah, you kind of looked at it and you're like, man, what kind of retirement fight is that? And I do believe that Anthony Smith probably could have said, guys, I mean, you already employ. I mean, I'm one of you now, right? Like, I'm part of the analyst team, and I'm on the broadcast. Like, this is what you want to do to me on my way out the door. Like, I'm going to be around for a while, like working for you. Like, can't you give me, something a little simpler? But that's just the way this game works. But I don't think that's who Anthony Smith is, And it was talked about a lot. I think during that video package that they had, his retirement package, very nice. Chael Sonnen, brought up the point of, listen. I mean, the John Jones fight. If he says, I can't continue, he's champion, you know what I mean? And so you look at the character of a guy who knew that he'd been caught by an illegal blow and just said, you know what, I know I can't fight. And he's talked about it frequently since, but it shows you his character. I mean, he just said, look, when they asked me if I could fight, I knew I could. And I'm not the kind of person that could say I can't. And all he had to say is, I can't, right? And there's nothing you can do. That fight's over at that point, and he's champion. But he's like, that's not what I want to do. That's not who I am. So to answer your question, I think he could have said something, but I just don't think that's who Anthony Smith is. I think he's like, if this is the assignment, then this is the assignment. And it was a tough one for him. I'll be honest. And look, Zhang Mingyang, I don't be surprised. I'm sure he'll be in the rankings when we get the update this week. And this dude, as you said, seems to be the next big thing in the light heavyweight division. So he seems to be a fast rising.
Huge.
Massive, man. So he seems to be a big deal. But, what Anthony Smith did out there, man, I think it showed his heart and his character and who he is. And so I think he was just willing to say, look, if that's the assignment, that's who I am. And even if it means I go out in frustrating fashion in my final fight in front of my family, that's what I do. That's what I've always done. And that's what I'll always do. And that's why I have so much respect for Anthony Smith, man. He's a great guy behind the scenes. He's super great at his analysis and his breakdowns and his technical knowledge. And he lived up to the nickname Lionheart, man. It didn't go his way, but I don't think he would have it any other way. Whatever the assignment was, that was it. How
many fights did he have in the UFC? Do you have it readily available?
I can pull it up really quick here. It was 20. Let's see. 25. Yep, 25.
And what he had to have been, 15 and 10. Right? Let's call it something like that. What was he?
13 and 12. So just over 500.
Okay. He's not an average 500 fighter in the UFC, fought for a title, right? Yep. But now his last, I think he was on a 4-fight losing streak to end his career.
3 at the end.
3? Okay. Big fan. I'm going to say that off the front end. And when somebody gets a video tribute package, they know that they mean something to the organization. He's not a Hall of Famer, though, is he?
No, he's not. I say that is one of the biggest. I've told this story before. I don't think I've ever told it to you, but I've told this story multiple times before. But I met Anthony Smith for the first time in 2010. I was in a airport bar after doing a commentary gig. Was on a layover and was waiting to fly home. And Anthony Smith walked up to me. I had no idea who he was. This is 2010. He walked up to me. He's like, John Morgan, just want to meet you. My name's Anthony Smith. I just want to let you know one day you'll be covering my career in the UFC. And so I just wanted to, meet you now and let you know that I'll be there, and I'm looking forward to it. And I was like, okay. And I've had multiple fighters do that over the years, but there was something about Anthony. He's a big dude, you know what I mean? Even back, he's well-spoken. I was just like, let me look this guy up. I looked him up, and at the time, he was 4-6 and on a 4-fight losing streak in his career. But he said, you're gonna see me in the UFC. And I remember, like, that is so weird. He's 4-6 and he's lost 4 in a row, and this dude's telling me he's gonna be in the UFC. I was like, all right. I mean, bless the confidence.
Good luck, kid.
Yeah, exactly, right? But damn if he didn't do it. Damn if he didn't do it. You know what I mean? And not only once, but twice, and fought out of, Strike Force and all. I mean, he did it. And he, as you said, fought for a title. So I cannot be a bigger Anthony Smith fan, man. I love the guy as a human being. I love the guy, a guy that can be at 4-6 and on a 4-fight losing streak and have the self-belief in himself that I'm going to be in the UFC and accomplish it. And he said it, right? I don't think I'm the greatest skilled or the greatest blessed or whatever. So I am a huge fan. But to me, he's not a UFC Hall of Famer. But he is somebody that can be incredibly proud of what he accomplished. And
made a lot of money.
To be around for a while. Made a lot of money, as he said, came from nothing, has been able to provide a life for his kids that he never had. And that's what this is all about, right? Isn't that what we're all out there trying to do, man? Is just provide a better life for our kids than what we had. So, God bless him. I love the guy, and I love the fact that he's going to be around and he's going to have a job with the UFC for a long time. But to me, not a Hall of Famer. I think, in terms of like longevity and that sort of thing, I mean, to me, like Jim Miller, to me, at 46 UFC fights and still going, trying to get to 50.
46?
Like, to me, 46, brother, and he's trying to get to 50. To me, that is the one guy that's a Hall of Famer. You know what I mean? Like, we talk about longevity, but longevity alone. But when you're the height of that, you know what I mean? When you are the Lou Gehrig or the Cal Ripken or whatever it may be.
More than Anthony Smith, 20.
Think about that. We're like, man, guy's been around forever, and he has almost double the amount of fights. Yeah. I think Jim Miller's that one that's out there. I think on longevity alone, whether he ever fights for a title or not, just the fact that he's been around that long, and like I said, he wants to get to that 50 mark. I think he's a Hall of Famer.
I tend to agree with you. I want to look forward to Des Moines, Iowa this weekend. Okay. Fun card. And I want to start at the co-main event, right? I want to kind of look at 2 fights on this card. There's actually, I'm looking at the card right now. There's some really good, fun fights on here. But I want to look at Bo Nickal, I think, by far getting his heaviest test this weekend, right?
100%.
Near Day Ritter. And I just want to go over this guy. He's undefeated in the UFC, 19-2 overall in his career, from the Netherlands. But he is a submission specialist. Only got 4 TKOs, 4 knockouts on his record. 13 of his 19 wins are coming via submission. All but 2 of his wins are coming by finish, right?
Right.
Now, only 2-0 in the I seemed like he had more UFC fights than 2. But he was in 1 in UAE, so I guess that's where I knew his name from prior to. But this isn't a guy that I think Bo Nickal can just recklessly abandon and take down to the ground and just start pounding out. You know what I mean?
This is brilliant matchmaking. So as you said, Reinier de Ridder, only 2 UFC fights. If you didn't watch his career in 1 championship before that, the only 2 losses he had are to Anatoly Malikin in fights that would absolutely never get sanctioned in the United States. Like the dude, Anatoly Malikin is an absolute monster, right? But, they were trying to pair up weight classes and have super fights and that sort of things. Reinier didn't necessarily look amazing against Gerald Meerschaert, but Gerald Meerschaert has a way of making a lot of people look not amazing, but he still grinded it out and he got a victory, however exhausted he may have been. A little bit better against Kevin Holland, of course, the first-round submission, but we don't think of Kevin Holland as he's a capable grappler. He's a fun grappler, but maybe not on that level of grappling. So this to me, I think you're right. I think it's beautiful matchmaking. When they announced the fight, I loved it, man, because you are starting to move Bo Nickal up. And that's what a lot of people have wanted to see, right? They're like, all right, you tell me Bo Nickal is this guy. I want to see him start moving up a little bit. And, of course, the UFC has invested some money in Bo Nickal. Like, he's not on a 10-10 contract or whatever, right? This guy is somebody that they believe in and they invest in. But this is brilliant matchmaking twofold. Number one, it's in Iowa, a state that is all about wrestling. So when you take the Penn State standout wrestler in Bo Nickal and you bring him to Iowa, yeah, they're going to boo the hell out of him because he's not a Hawkeye. But they understand and they know who that guy is. Like the fan base in Iowa probably appreciates Bo Nickal's athletic track record more than anywhere else in the country, right? Because they just understand and are passionate about wrestling. So that's cool. But it's brilliant matchmaking as well, and the fact that it's Reinier de Ridder that is ranked right now. Now, Bo Nickal was in the rankings just for a moment, and then he actually slipped out in favor of Reinier de Ridder. So they were right on the edge. But this is an opportunity for Bo Nickal to test himself against ranked competition, but stylistically, it's a matchup that makes sense given his skill set, right? Like Bo Nickal is a developing mixed martial artist, and you don't think of Reinier de Ridder as this dude is going to come out and he's going to Anderson Silva you out there. You know what I mean? That's not what he does. He's going to be a stiff test in the grappling department. So I love this matchmaking. I love this fight. And I love the fact that you're starting there on it because I'm as intrigued by this matchup as anything along the way because it's a good stylistic matchup for Bo Nickal, but it's not a gimme fight by any stretch. I mean, Reinier de Ridder is an incredibly talented black belt.
Tested. What, 19-2?
Battle test. Yes, battle tested. So I love this fight, man. I think it's very, very intriguing, and I think it's a good step into a brilliant piece of matchmaking.
Yeah. Before we get to the top, you see who else is on this card?
Who would you be looking at?
He's on a one-off fight deal right now.
You got Jeremy Stephens, of course, man. I mean, there's a couple people on there, but yeah, I'm glad you're leaning in that direction. Jeremy Stephens, talk about brilliant matchmaking and an out-of-nowhere addition to the card that nobody was expecting. And if you're a fight fan, you're a Jeremy Stephens fan, right? Like Little Heathen comes out there to throw down every time. I mean, he is an Iowa guy, right? So, I mean, this is a homecoming for him. So there's that. And as you said, I mean, I think it's kind of a unique deal. A lot of people were surprised to see him come back. He'd been having a great run in BKFC, right? He took out Jimmy Rivera, took out Eddie Alvarez. So he's having a great run over there. Seemed to be like this budding star for BKFC, and he ends up back in the UFC. And it sounds like from his own revelations and his own discussions, it's kind of a one-fight deal where it was just like, look, you guys are coming back to Iowa for the first time in 20 years. I'm an Iowa guy. Dana has always liked Jeremy Stephens because his fighting style is what they want to see. Like, he's coming out there to throw down. And he's back. He's back, not giving an easy opponent in Mason Jones, by the way. They did not give him a layup and an easy one here in his homecoming, but they did add him to the card. I think it's a beautiful addition, man. I think that's a lot of fun. He's going to get a pop. You can count on that.
His last one against Eddie Alvarez, but his previous bare knuckle fight before that is against a friend of mine, ODB Bobby Taylor, old dirty bastard Bobby Taylor. And Bobby Taylor is just this good old country boy. There's no bullshit in him, and nicest guy you'll ever meet. And so I ran into Bobby T, and I said, "What was it like fighting Jeremy Stephens?" And he goes, "Dude, that dude hit so hard."
You would expect nothing less.
And for a guy like him, who just like just to really kind of acknowledge how hard Jeremy Stephens hits, just makes him a fun fighter you want to watch. I'm excited to see him back in MMA, but is it just because it's in Iowa, like only before, or is he trying to leverage himself like, hey, I did the bare knuckle thing, now I want to go back to the payday? Because if I'm to see where he really could be a bigger star, it's probably still in bare knuckle, but obviously the paydays probably aren't there for him. So I'm trying to figure out like what avenue he's trying to play here.
It's tough. I think it's a little bit of all the above. I do think that he can make as big of paydays in BKFC. Like, for the most part, you're right. The biggest paychecks are always going to be in the UFC. They are. Unless you can make yourself kind of the face of one of these other organizations, right? Like a Mike Perry has done, like an Eddie Alvarez had done before, like Jeremy Stephens seems to be doing. I think this was just a very unique opportunity to come fight back in the UFC in Iowa, make a nice paycheck, but not necessarily to start a title run for Jeremy Stephens. I think it's just like, hey, this is a very unique opportunity. The stars were aligned in just the right way to make this happen. And boy, it was funny because as you were talking, I pulled up the odds. I had not seen the odds yet. Mason Jones, for anybody that doesn't know, is a very, very capable athlete. And I knew this was going to be and a fun athlete at that. To be honest with you, he's had a couple of setbacks in the UFC, but it was against some very, very tough competition. Mike Davis, who I think is an underrated fighter all the way around. Ludovic Klein, who has come on to do some very amazing things. Mason Jones went back to Cage Warriors, where he originally came from, rattled off 4 straight wins, and now he's back. So when I heard this matchmaking, I was like, ooh, they sure didn't give Jeremy Stephens a gimme, even if he is, a name that's not really that known. I just pulled up the odds, and Mason Jones is a minus 575 right now on DraftKings. So, yeah, so to say that he's a tough matchup, a challenging matchup, a difficult matchup, yeah, this is not easy. But Jeremy Stephens, that guy that packs that kind of one-hit quitter, it can knock you out. It doesn't matter what the odds are.
That man hit so hard.
That man hits so hard. He does. He does indeed.
Hey, our girl Miesha Tate is on this card.
Yep.
I think just a fun little fight. She's fighting Yana Santos.
Right.
Yeah, I think that'll be fun. And before we get to the main event, there's a guy that he won the Ultimate Fighter, but I don't think anybody appreciates how good this guy really is in Ryan Loder.
Ryan Loder.
He is so good. 7-1. I remember I refed him in the UFL, United Fight League.
Right. And
this was shortly before he went on the Ultimate Fighter. And I was like, dude, there are levels to this game, and this guy is on a whole different level. And then he in all honesty, he breezed through the Ultimate Fighter.
He did. I'm glad you pointed him out, man. That's a great one. Collegiate wrestler. Dude is an absolute stud, and I agree. I think he's kind of gone underappreciated, under the radar. So this is an opportunity for him as well against Asmat Bekov. So that'll be a big opportunity for him to again. He's only had one fight in the UFC if you don't count the Ultimate Fighter, but he is somebody that I think it's hard, man. There's 700 fighters on the roster right now. There's fights every single week. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like not everybody, and I think you guys understand, like not everybody can sit down and watch 6 or 7 hours of a UFC card every week. I get it. For the most part, outside of the really, really hardcore fan base, you catch the main card, or you catch maybe the top couple of fights, especially on a fight night. You got other stuff going on. You got life gets in the way. You come in and, you will. So this is a guy that very easily to slip under the radar, but he's got a lot of skills. So definitely worth pointing out as well. I think that'll be a fun one. I always like seeing Jillian Robertson compete as well. She's her grappling is always on fun to me, so I'm glad to see her on this card as well. So again, I think you said it. It looks like it looks a lot like last week's lineup where
Ponzinibbio versus D-Rock.
That's a good fight right there. Really,
we haven't even got to the main event yet. I mean, listen, Des Moines, like they put together a good card for you. They put together a very good card for you. Let's talk about the main event, though. Yep. Okay. So you have Cory Sandhagen, Cory Sandhagen versus Deiveson Figueiredo, bantamweight fight, and I think this is just a good, fun fight to put as a main event on a card. I don't really think there's any big implications. I mean, Figueiredo coming off the Peter Yan loss, it's like, is he really going to make any mark in this division? We'll find out. We will find out this fight, and then Sandhagen, I think he's got all the skill in the world. He's very unorthodox to a high level degree, but then when you put him against Nurmagomedov or whatever, the levels show. So he's kind of plateaued at where he is at. Nonetheless, fun fight that I'm looking forward to seeing because, Figueiredo is good everywhere.
Yep.
Powerful. Sandhagen is unorthodox. We know he can grapple to a degree, but he's a fun out-of-the-box striker as well. So just a fun fight overall, but I don't think there's no real ramifications here, right?
Right. I agree with you. I think the only ramification is just who stays in that top-level conversation between those. I just feel like right now at bantamweight, especially knowing that we've got a title fight lined up, we've got the rematch between Rob Dvalishvili and Sean O'Malley lined up, and then it seems like we've got this pretty well-established pecking order, right? I mean, you've got Umar right there, and then he's right behind him. And so, I mean, it's just, to me, this is the one that who stays in that conversation. Like, who gets to say, no, I deserve a number one contender fight next, or I deserve to be in that discussion of who's next out there. It's not going to lead to an immediate title fight. You never know. I mean, obviously, timing and availability and all those things can change things. But stylistically, it's just two incredibly well-rounded, incredibly exciting mixed martial arts. They're going to be, neither one of these guys are in fights that you don't want to watch. So when you put them up against each other, I think it's just going to prove to be entertaining television. I don't think it necessarily leads to a title fight for either athlete, but it does keep them in that conversation of that. And man, that bantamweight division is so deep, and there's a wave of youngsters coming up as well that, like, you don't want to cede any space, right? Like, you don't want to cede any ground and start slipping backwards, because then you got to start jumping over some absolute monsters to get yourself back up at the top. So it's a meaningful fight in terms of where the career kind of moves afterwards, but I don't think it leads to a title fight. I think it's just going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Last thing before we get out of here today is I want to look 2 weeks ahead from now at the welterweight world championship, and between Belal Muhammad and Jack Mandalena. I think I said this on this broadcast before. Not sure, but I'm going to go out and put a hot take out there into the ether. I think Belal Muhammad is going to go down as the greatest welterweight champion of all time.
Wow.
I think he is so good that, you know, he is going to be in the conversation in 2 years' time, whether it's going to be him or GSP. Now, I think sentimental favorite, everybody's going to always lean to GSP, but I think when you really look at it, the skill set that Belal Muhammad brings to the table, and he said in an interview with you this past week, "Oh, this guy's a great boxer. I'm going to be calling my shot just like Max Holloway did. I'm the best boxer in the UFC."
Yep.
He is not shying away. He literally goes out and wants to beat that person at what they are best at to prove a point. Can he take down Jack and grind him out? Yeah, he can. But he said publicly that he's going to come out and strike with him just to prove how good he is. He wants to show everybody how good his striking is. He wanted to show everybody that he was a better kickboxer than Leon. He wanted to show everybody that he's a better boxer than Jack here. The guy's a stud.
He is, and it's funny, man. Again, you know, it's I can't help but think of all the similarities between him and Ian Machado Garry in just terms of public perception of people not liking the person for just zero reason whatsoever. Like,
he's
again,
one of the best interviews in the world.
I'm telling you, his trash talk's hilarious, right? Because he doesn't cuss or anything, and he doesn't go over the line, but he's just constantly just poking at people, right? Like online, if you happen to be on social media and X, you know what I mean? Like, he has no problem interacting with fans, interacting with other fighters, and just straight trash talking them, but in just a hilarious way. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, he doesn't even cuss, so it's just like, it's funny, it's high level.
Is it the finish rate with him?
It's a finish rate with him. It's 100% the finish rate with him. It's just that he's not getting enough finishes. But I mean, again, dude, like, look at this run, and you know, in the beginning, you could say, okay, well, you know, Damian Maia's and Wonder Boys, and okay, fine. But I mean, now we're talking about Sean Brady, Gilbert Burns, Leon Edwards. Again, he's talking about, like, I'll take another long winning streak here. And again, he's doing the things that we want, right? He wants to stay as active as possible. A champion that doesn't say, no, I only want to fight here. I only want to fight then. I only want to do this. That guy hasn't earned it. Like, this guy just says, tell me what the day is. Tell me who the opponent is. And yeah, I'll put the title up for grabs. Let's go. You know what I mean? Shavkat's the guy. Let's go. I want Shavkat. Oh, Shavkat's not available. Who else you got? You know, I mean, the guy is doing everything that you want, man. He really is. And again, I just think it boils down to the fact that he's not getting the finishes. And if that's what you say, is like, yeah, man, I just want to, okay, fine.
Now, he does have 18 decisions out of his 24 wins. Like that.
Can we pull up the record for George St. Pierre as well? Then, if we're you know, don't let it be blasphemy.
Late in GSP's career, he was I'm going to take you out and only bring you to where I'm comfortable, and 100%. I'm going to grind it out.
And no, but you know, the greatness was undeniable. You know what I mean? But let's be honest, there were not a lot of finishes in that late run for George St. Pierre. And I'm not taking that as a shot at George St. Pierre. I'm a guy that set Cageside and covers his career and was like, man, this guy is amazing. He's everything that you could want. He was an excellent representation of the sport. He was dominant. He had the whole nation of Canada behind him. But he had a lot of decisions as well. But again, it's not easy. Like, look, I mean, you understand, you have refereed every level of the sport, right? And look, at the lowest level of the sport, it is easy to get knockout and submissions, because you got a lot of people that honestly don't have a lot of business being in there. You know what I mean? They're trying it out. They're new. They don't know. When you get to this level, get to top 10 in the world.
Hey, you see that guy right there?
Yeah.
He had no business being in there. Like, he wasn't very good. Like, I have that picture on the wall. Like, I fought one time, but we're low-level amateur fighters. Yeah, it's very easy. Like, it's the have and have-nots.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not disrespecting them. That's what, because look, that's one of the things I've always said about fighters. Like, anybody who has the willingness to step in there, you should respect them, because it is scary as hell. It's not an easy thing to do physically, mentally, all those things. It's just so anybody that steps in there, but there are levels to this game, right? And when you're at the level that Belal Muhammad is at, that George St. Pierre is at, it's easy to go out there and say, I'm going to finish this guy, but it's very, very hard to make happen, right? It's very, very difficult to do. And so to go out there, and honestly, to go out there in 50-45, another top-ranked elite contender, is in a lot of ways more impressive as a martial artist, right? Because it's not just, I caught a guy and, his lights went out and that was that. That's fun to watch.
Fire at every round.
That's it. You know what I mean? Like, it's fun to watch. Of course we love those highlights, but to go, hey, I went out there and you had 5 different opportunities to try to take me out and you didn't, and I won every round. So anyway, I'm a Belal Muhammad fan as well. And by the way, just behind the scenes, the nicest dude you will ever meet. Got a chance to actually call his last fight before he joined the UFC, and so I got to meet him then. And so I've been around for his entire UFC career, and literally just the nicest, most respectful, cool human being. And again, I get it. If you say, yeah, I okay, but I just like guys that get knockouts, or I just like guys that get submissions, that's fine. But you can't deny his greatness.
How well is that Sean Brady knockout aging right now?
Bro, I mean, unbelievable, right? Unbelievable, because Sean Brady is on an absolute. Sean Brady looked fantastic last time out, and so that, and that's the great thing, right? That's the great thing about Belal Muhammad, is he will not say, yeah, but I already beat that guy. I'm not really interested in that fight. Let me do something else. You know what I mean? Like, no, if that's the fight that's there for him, that's the fight that he'll take. And I love that. And look, I love the fact too, there's a lot of people talking about Islam Makhachev maybe moving up to 170 pounds, and Belal's like, won't fight him. Just won't. You know what I mean? Like, if that means I leave, like, whatever. If that means I got to give it, I don't care. Will not fight that guy. Him and his team did too much for me. And I love that, man. I love that respect, to be like, there's no amount of money that can make me, take that fight.
Yeah. I mean, fabulous. He's a fabulous interview. He's epically talks smack. He is, in my opinion, there's Belal Muhammad and there's everybody else in that welterweight division. I've watched enough MMA in my life. Like, I'm going to classify me as a very educated viewer in this sport. And when I watch a guy who can beat the best in the world at what they do, and it really even not be the best at what he does, there's levels to this game. And he is so good. And he's been saying it for years. And at first, I for whatever reason, I don't know, I just wasn't a fan of his, and maybe it was the finish rate. But as I just kind of really like, okay, as his stock went up the card, right? As he went up the card, I started paying more and more and more attention. And he is undeniably the best, in my opinion. If there wasn't a guy named John Jones out there, honestly, I think he'd be like one of the best pound for pound fighters in the world, of just what he is doing to people in the way he is doing it, for all the reasons that you just said. I think he's going to go down. We'll break down this fight next week. I don't think there's much to break down. He already told you in your exclusive Grind City Media interview what he's going to do. He's going to go down there and beat him up striking.
I love it. And look, that's what makes this fight game so exciting is, look, Jack Della Maddalena is dangerous. You know what I mean? Like, that dude has hands, man. He can strike. So he is dangerous. And they're out there in those 4-ounce gloves, and anything can happen. But you're right. I love the fact that Belal, just laid it out there. It's like, I want to have my Max Holloway moment. Like, let's go out there and do this, man. So looking forward to having him hold the stage. It's a good card. Like I said, we'll talk about it next week. It's a fun lineup that they've got laid out there. I wanted to make it out to Montreal for that one, to be honest with you. But it is my son's birthday next weekend. So my parents are coming down, and He'll be a teenager, man. He's going to be 13 years old. So, yeah, my parents are actually flying in for that to celebrate his teenage birthday with him. So I will not be making it out to Montreal. But as you said, man, did get a chance to talk to Belal Muhammad ahead of that. So I appreciate him and everybody for doing that for Grind City Media. So even though I won't be making it out there, did get a chance to talk to the champ ahead of that. So check that out if you haven't already.
Any other big plans for the weekend?
Not much, man. Just hanging out a little bit, catching up. We got a couple weeks until the big Memorial Day weekend doubleheader for CFFC out in Atlantic City, where we'll be doing grappling and mixed martial arts, I should say, on back-to-back nights. So I look forward to that. So yeah, a couple of weeks of just kind of hanging around Vegas a little bit, and I'll be tuned in on television watching the show from Des Moines. That's for sure. How about you? The NBA season has sadly come to an end. Like you said, I know, a little bittersweet, right? Because you never want to see the Grizz go out, but it is summer vacation now, right?
Yes, it is very bittersweet for me. No, it is. It is. But there's so much turmoil behind the Grizzlies late in. We went from a 2 seed to an 8 seed in the span of 1 month. It was kind of like, let's get the season behind us. Let's make whatever changes we got to moving forward. But for me, like, we were so heavily backloaded in our schedule and then went straight into the play-in, straight into the playoffs. It was just, I was burning the candle at both ends. So now get to take a deep breath. I have so much yard work to catch up on that, like, honestly, a lot of this week is just going to be doing that as well.
All the exciting stuff of life, right? You know what I mean? We can
love doing that. I love doing that.
Hey, that may be one of the most underrated values of living in Las Vegas. There is no yard work. You know what I mean? Like, I've lived in this house for going on 13 years now, and I'll never forget when I first moved in. I got lucky because the landscaper that I still use today was working next door, and I was like, this is a blessing. I just moved in, man. Would you mind, working on my house as well? He's like, 100%. I'd love to. He's like, I'll come right over and we'll knock it out. So he comes and trims up the bushes and trees and all that. And I'm like, thank you, man. I'm like, so when will I see you again? Now, remember, I'm a Texas boy, much like Memphis. You probably got to mow that yard every week, if we're being honest, every 2 weeks if you want to stretch it out a little bit, right? So I was like, when do you need to come back? He's like, I see you in like 2 months. I'm like, 2 months? I only got to have landscaping done every 2 months? Let's go. So,
so for me, I hate, like, the one thing I do hate is cutting my bushes. So actually, my buddy, his company, they come and do that for me. But I'm a weekly mower. Yeah. I have the 7-blade front reel mower. I have mine like a putting green. Like, I get
nice.
I get fanatical. Like it's a weird obsession. Like, I have to have the nicest grass. I mean, I'm out there like sprinkling my fertilizer on where I need it, watering it. Like,
I love it.
My neighbor has the best yard in the. I never was fanatical about my grass, and then I moved into the house that I'm in now. I moved in there about almost 4 years ago, and everybody was like, "Oh, you live next to the nice grass guy." I said, "Challenge accepted." I'm so damn competitive in everything I do that it's a me and him battle all summer.
I love it. Now he's going to be the second best grass guy. That's what he's going to be known as. So, I mean, do y'all ever talk about it? Like, is this
yeah. He's educated me on, like, because he was like a professional, like he built like grass stadium fields that was what he did, right?
Oh wow.
So he kind of educated me, but he didn't tell me all his secrets, and he purposely held some back because I was really coaching. Shit you not, I started going through his trash can. I'm not lying. I started going through his trash can to find out the chemicals.
This is great.
Yeah.
You got like FBI investigation over there on this man's lawn treatment. Oh, yeah, man. That is competitive right there. That is competitive.
Yeah. And he's that competitive too. So it gets to, like, I hear his lawnmower start up on a Saturday morning. I said, F this dude, man. He told me he wasn't mowing until next week.
Oh, that's the most amazing story I've ever heard. I love that. I needed that today. That's good.
Yeah. Anyways, well, with that being said, fun episode. Looking back on that great car, looking forward to this week in Des Moines, and then obviously in 2 weeks, Belal Muhammad defends his title. We'll break down that next week. For John Morgan, I'm Eric McMahon. Enjoy the fights.